Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the AthElite podcast. We have a special guest in Jonathan Clemente. He's the youngest coach ever in the NPLW. So anyone that doesn't know what the NPLW is, it's basically the second highest level of football or soccer in Australia. So it's semi-professional and a very high standard. So Jonathan, welcome to the podcast, and it's a pleasure to have you on.
Thanks, Ross. Looking forward to it. Thanks for the opportunity, mate.
So give us a little bit of a background. What got you into coaching? Because at the moment you're the head coach of Heidelberg United in the NPL. So what basically got you into coaching?
So I love soccer since I was little. So I started playing when I was 5 years old. Kept playing until I was 15 or so. But I had really good coaches at a young age. I was quite inquisitive. So they started me asking more questions, and I was asking more questions of them from the coaching side of things as I was still playing. So they encouraged me to start coaching at a younger age when I was about 13. So when I was 13 years of age, I started coaching like the under 5 to 8s at Essendon Royals, the club I played at the time, and kind of went from there. Really just found that this is kind of my passion. I really enjoyed it, and yeah, kept going.
So you're now at Heidelberg United, and you used to be at Essendon Royal as a football director.
Yeah, correct. So basically, so I started coaching there when I was quite young, and then I started to take coaching more seriously, and I stopped playing for that reason because coaching is quite time consuming. So I went back to Essendon Royals. I think it was 2017 now or so, to take the under 13s on. Did quite well there, and then got promoted to be the technical director. So the technical director is basically managing the whole club. So you appoint the coaches, you set the philosophy of the club and how training should be and how the way the kids should be developed so they can play seniors or get into like academies like Melbourne Victory or Melbourne City and so forth. So I did that, and at the same time I got the opportunity to coach the senior women's team. So that was a big challenge. I never coached women's before or seniors, but I feel in sport and life in general, you've just got to test yourself and take these risks. So did that as well. Did quite well, long story short, but being the technical director, so we got the club, not only just me, obviously everyone else at the club, but we got them promoted into the NPL junior boy system, which is, so Essendon Royals were a community club at the time. So we managed to achieve that, which was really good, and especially for that area. So Essendon Royals have about 750 kids. So now there's a pathway for them to play in the National Premier League, which is fantastic. And for the senior women's team, I took them over when they just got relegated from State 1. And then, long story short, got promoted in my first year. And then Heidelberg called me, and Heidelberg, bit of background, is a massive club, if honest. Played in the NSL, which is the precursor to the A-League. And yeah, they've been a massive club ever since. And then they gave me the call to coach the NPLW team there, and I'm super excited and really blessed for the opportunity and honoured. But yeah, that's how we got there.
Yeah, I've heard Bentley Greens and your Heidelberg United. I have a few friends that play soccer and have been involved in the NPL, and you know those two clubs there, South Melbourne, they're probably your three biggest clubs is for males anyway. Is that correct?
Yeah, pretty much. So you got South Melbourne, Heidelberg. They say would be the top two, and then like Melbourne Knights as well, Croatian based, and then yeah, Bentley in recent years has done very well in their senior team. But yeah, they're all, you know, in semi-professional leagues, but they're trying to be into that second tier when it becomes for the A-League, and they're all pretty much capable of it. So yeah, it's a good standard.
So what have you found to be the difference between you've coached obviously juniors, you've coached males, you've coached females. What do you think is the biggest difference between coaching males and coaching females?
There's a few differences, and then there's a lot of similarities. I think the biggest one for me is the girls are more inquisitive. So the girls want to know all the details. So if you're coaching a younger boys session, for example, as a coach, what you say is the gospel to them, because they don't know, they don't ask that many questions. So if I say, you know, when the winger gets the ball, we're going to do this, the boys will nod their head, and men as well nod their head. Yep, cool, we'll be doing that. But for the girls, say, yep, when she drops in, we've got to do this. It's okay, but what if this happens, and then how about if this, and what do I have to do? So there's more questions around it because they want to be more informed. And I think that's one of the perks of coaching women, if honest, because it keeps you on your toes as a coach. So make sure you've got all the details ready to go. But I'll say that's probably the biggest difference in actual coaching.
You hear some stories like, um, this is obviously at the elite level, but guys like Stevie Gerrard, being Liverpool, when was he 8 years old when he was basically started with Liverpool? Messi was, I think he was around 8 years old or 10 years old. So they start, really, really young in those development squads. So how does that all go about, even if it's not at EPL or La Liga or CDR, even just at a Melbourne Victory? How do they get into those junior development squads?
It was a kind of a market that wasn't really tapped into much until recent years, especially here or in Australia, where what would happen is if you're just you're 5 years old, you just go to your local club, and then when you're 12 years old, you'll be able to play in the NPL because that's when the earliest age group is, and then you'll move to an NPL club, and it's scattered from there. So I also work at Melbourne City in one of these pre-academies. So the one I work at Melbourne City is the City Football Schools. So basically anyone from 4 to I think 12 years old can sign up to be coached by the Melbourne City staff like myself and other academy coaches. And just so you're in the system as ready already, and you get brought up into the kind of the Melbourne City kind of philosophy, and obviously improving it, but you still play with your local team as well. I think that's probably the best ways to get into start aspiring to be at those clubs are longer, because it's difficult, but the more eyes you can get on yourself playing in at a younger age, and the more development hours you can get in from training and whatnot, it's the best.
So staying on this junior development topic, a player that might be, 8 years old or 10 years old, and they might start out as a keeper or defender, is that generally the position that they play throughout their whole career, or does it vary up quite significantly, or how does that work? Because sport like AFL, um, it's really versatile. So someone can be, a midfielder, and then they can have a massive growth spurt and be the ruckman within, 24 months. So how does, because soccer is very technical, it's a lot more technical, you'd say, than football in regards to position specific and the dynamics in that regard. So how versatile do these players need to be at such a young age?
It's a good point because it's happening more and more over recent years, which is promising. But yeah, coaches should be training those players in to be more versatile. So if you get a kid at 10 years old and they've played a centre back, can we move them to a six, so a defensive mid, for example? These kids at a young age, it's absolutely key that they are training in multiple positions. But in saying that as well, the training concepts of how most coaches these days isn't individual or position based. So my centre back can play as a midfielder on the weekend because we're doing the same thing. We're all together in that team training environment, and those technical aspects that my player as a centre back should be able to do as a number 10, so an attacking mid in my team with no issues. But yeah, it's definitely important to be as versatile as you can as a junior player.
What do you think that you found to be best to motivate your athletes, whether it's senior women's or junior men's or junior boys?
So yeah, in terms of motivation, I think the most important part of it is you've got to understand who you're trying to motivate. So it's very good and well to motivate the whole team, but some of those players in that team are there for different reasons, and that's completely fine in a team setting. So it's getting to know your players and what really drives them. So that's for me number one. And then you really start to break it down individually based. Okay, so Ross, for example, is motivated because he wants to be the best midfielder in the league. So I'm going to make sure that everything I do can help him achieve that goal. And then I'll bring it back into a team sense. And generally how I do it in the team sense is, girls or boys, we're trying to be a part of something here that's much bigger than just this year and this squad. So we want to leave a legacy behind, especially at Heidelberg. It was meant to be my first year this year. We want to leave behind, and we've established this title of the brand new Heidelberg. We want to set a culture. We want to set a core values and beliefs right now that will last for the next 5-6 years, because players will move on and coaches will move on, and that's football and that's sport. But we want to make sure you're part of something bigger than that, and you'll leave a mark. And that's how I generally motivate this current Heidelberg team and women's squad. But going back, individual is key.
Great way to be. You always, every athlete, like I'm sure you've got some people that need to kick up the bum, and some people you need it. They're more positive. You need more positive feedback, and really need to nurture them. But like I said just before, you need some people that you really need to be pushed, and they can take a lot of feedback and almost go a little bit old school, because that's what drives them best.
100%, 100%. So it's finding that balance. It's finding that balance, because I can speak to you in one way, but I can't speak to another boy in the squad in the same way. It's everyone's different, and that's one of the challenges as a coach. You have to understand in any sport that how can you bring all these 20 individual people, individual players into one common goal, making sure you're motivating people in the right manner as well.
So what have some of the training techniques that you've used that have really worked well? So, every coach is going to have their different philosophies. Some are going to be super technical, and they just leave their strength and conditioning up to the players in their own time. Some are, all strength and conditioning, and they almost forget about the technical and tactical side of things. So, what are some of your philosophies that have worked well with yourself? Do you have your own strength and conditioning team that worry about that side of stuff, or do you have a bunch of coaches, like an attack coach, a keeper coach?
So in terms of that, I'm very lucky at Heidelberg and being at the level I am, that we can afford to have a strength and conditioning team. And I think that's key, because as a head coach of any sport, you don't have to know everything, which I think in previous years, the head coach is the gospel. He must know everything, strength conditioning, physio. But I think the key to have a successful team, a successful program, is having people around you that are smarter than you. I think that is key, especially I can't be telling my girls strength and conditioning stuff when that's not my area of expertise. So that's, I think, is key, and we do have a team for that. But in terms of the balance that we try and find, one day will be, and it will change every week depending who we're playing, depending the week of the load and whatnot. But generally, one day will be super tactical. One day will be a technical stuff, or be half technical and tactical, and the other day will be technical and like strength and conditioning. So it'll be that one day that's pure tactical. This is how we're going to beat or nullify the other team on the weekend. And then those other two sessions will be more technical. How can we perform those skills that relate back to that technical aspect that we've done previously during the week? And then bring it all together. And the last one with a bit of strength and conditioning. Generally, because if I didn't have a strength and conditioning team like I didn't have last year at Royals, it would be like 5-a-sides, bigger area, more running, making sure the ball's always in. But never, in my experience anyway, I'd love to get your feedback on it. I didn't do many like just general runs or like out of ladders and stuff, because I wanted it to be football specific. But again, I'm not too sure on the science behind that, and you can fill me in, I guess.
Yeah, there is heaps of research at the moment going into it, and they're finding small-sided games. You're probably familiar with small-sided games, and that's across AFL, football, and rugby, to be really beneficial for sport-specific conditioning. So whether that's a 20-meter by 20-meter box and keepings off, for example, you might have like 5-on-3, things like that, is really specific and can get their conditioning up. That's really good, small-sided games, but also you do need to do sprints generally, just because no matter how much you train, for example, for injury prevention reasons, it's really important to get those guys sprinting. So, for example, we hit top speed at about 60 meters. So and this can be incorporated in a warm up, something like, at the end of a warm up, get them to do a couple of 60-meter sprints. Really good for hamstring injury prevention. Hamstring's number one injury for soccer, for AFL, for rugby. It's like a curse almost, because once you do it once, it's always haunting someone. In regards to other conditionings, there's so many ways. I think if a coach ever says to you, this is the only way you can do something, similar to tactical, if there's one coach that says this is the only way you can do something, maybe find
Find a new
another
coach.
coach. Yeah. So, But yeah, there's so many ways. Like Tabata's awesome research. It's all about work to rest ratio specific to the sport at the end of the day. So whether you're doing like 15 seconds run, 15 seconds rest, you do that for 5 minutes, that'll get them blowing. And it's quite sport specific. As long as you don't make them do like, let's do a 20K run, because
Yeah,
at the
yeah.
at the end of the
Speed
day,
running.
it's all about specificity. What do you think is the biggest component that really drives team success in a sport like soccer?
For me, the biggest driver to be a successful team or a successful player, it has to be a winning mentality. I think that is so crucial in not even sport, soccer, but walk of life. You've got to be a winner in everything you do. So for me, we try and develop that as much as we can, because some people naturally will come to the club and they want to win everything. But some players naturally and people aren't just like that. It's not something that's just built into you. It grows over time. So we want to make sure that in every little thing we do with training, there's a winner and there's a loser. We don't, in an NPL level, you don't get medals for coming fifth. You don't. So if we want to win, we want to finish in the top four, we want to make finals. So every little detail counts for us. So for example, we're at training, we're doing like a little 4v2 possession game, and there'll be two groups of them, for example. 10 passes for the left group, and like if you get 10 passes first, that's a goal for your team. So whoever in the two squares are competing against each other, if you lose 10 push-ups, something just small as that, I want my players every day, every time they come to training, I'm going to win this. 4v2, as soon as I come, I'm winning it. I'm not losing. I lost last week. Has to be won. Has to be won. And then another way we kind of try and bring that out of them is, I'll be reffing, just say the game training towards the end, and I'll ref poorly. Yeah. And I want them to say, Jono, hey, that was my goal. That was mine. Oh, that's my throw. I want them to start getting that into the natural habitat. No, you have to fight for this. You have to have that mentality where I want to win this game. I don't care if it's training, because if I'm like this now, when I play on Sunday, we're going to get a result no matter what. And I think it comes down to that confidence as well, which kind of ties into it, because you want to have a player that is confident not only on the ball but as a person. So I want them and my team to have radiating confidence. So when you look at me as a coach, I should be confident when I'm delivering my session, so my players can see John is confident, knows what he's talking about. When the players come to the ground, walking heads up, confident walks all together, little things like that for me should incorporate, so it becomes that winning success that we're going to get. So if you have that winning mentality from every little thing you do, and you've got that radiating confidence that just shows off and blows off on and every single person around you, I think them two are crucial.
It's a good environment to be in, I have to admit. When you got competitive athletes and there's, spots that are highly competitive and lots of people. So I'm assuming Heidelberg would be a massive club. There'll be lots of people, lots of spots. I think everyone wants to be in that starting 11, if not on the bench at the very minimum. And it's definitely good when you've got that healthy competitive environment. Makes your job hard, but that's
Yeah,
the environment that you want.
yeah, 100%. And I think having an environment like that sets them up for in the social aspect of life and work and social as soon as they leave the football pitch. I think you have to have that drive. You've got to have that motivation, that winning mentality when you're going for a job. When you're doing, how can I do that little bit extra so I can make sure I get this job, or how can I do this to make this successful? And that's where sport kind of ties into the general life as well.
There's some guys, like some of the best athletes in the world, you talk and you hear Mike Tyson, for example. Mike Tyson, when he was in his prime, a completely different sport here, but same winning mentality. One of the best boxers ever, in my opinion, especially in the heavyweight division. And as a young guy, like 21 years old, like youngest heavyweight champ ever, he was never happy. Like he'd knock someone out in the third or fourth round, and they'd ask him, how do you like your performance? And he'd be critical because he wanted to get better and better and better. And I think that carries over. There's plenty of examples. You see the documentary on Netflix with The Last Dance with Michael Jordan. What he says to his teammates, like, do your job. Your job is to pass the ball. So I think having that healthy competitive environment, that you need that for success. You need pressure. Like, pressure makes diamonds or burst pipes. I think that's one of the best quotes I've ever
Yeah,
heard,
it's a great
because
quote. Yeah.
it's so true. when the pressure's on, you really see um, who shies away from the pressure and who really grasps it with both hands.
Yeah, 100%. Like even the Michael Jordan thing, he was like when he was gambling with the security guards, he wants to beat him in cards, or he goes to the back of the bus like, who am I beating in cards today? So everything he did in life or in that doco, he wins it. I want to win it. If you're going for a jog, I'm going to be faster than you, Ross. As soon as I go out there, I'm going to do my 5K quicker. Every little thing, I want to be best. I want to be the best. And like you said, it could crush people, but it makes diamonds, that pressure as well, and having that mentality all the time. But generally, if you can get that nailed down and have an environment where it supports it, success is around the corner.
So what are some of the things, so being more the football director at Essendon Royals, I'm not too sure how much, I dare say you'd have a fair bit of a role in this at Heidelberg. When you're scouting and when you're selecting players, what are some of the things that you're looking for? So just say if you're recruiting players, are there any specific aspects that you're looking for, or it would definitely change from position to position, but are there anything specific? Are you looking more at their talent? Are you looking more at their work rate? Are you looking more at their, coachability? So what are some of the things that are really important when you select players?
Attitude is key. Everyone wants to coach good people, and you want good people at your club. So I think that's important, making sure to have the right attitude to officials and stuff when you go watch and play and little things like that. But the attitude also, just what we mentioned earlier, that winning mentality. If I go to watch a game and I can see a girl who's just fighting for every single ball, ref, that's my ball. Yep, come on, and guides the other team or your other teammates. That's important. But another thing for the coachability aspect of it is, for me anyway, you've got to be switched on. And that because football is changing dramatically, and it always does. And every sport evolves, and new tactical trends come out, new coaching methods come out. And if you just stagnate in one thing, you're going to struggle. So me personally, as a coach, I like to keep things as fresh as I can. So if I, for example, see something new that's been done in the Women's Super League in England, or something done in Germany that I've read a good article, this might work. Let's try it. If girls are a little bit hesitant on that, that's a red flag to me, because you need to try new things. We need to be adaptable, because if we get these things right, and there's a good quote: the best coaches are the best thieves. So if I find something, if you're coaching, Ross has got a good session there, I'm going to pinch that. That might work for my girls. Send a little clip about Guardiola, I'm going to pinch that. If we can blend that all together, and the girls can respond to that in a good way and not be anxious, or but that's fine in a way, because anytime you're starting something new, but you've got to be switched on. And for me, as soon as you come to a club, or we bring you into Heidelberg or any club that I've worked at, if you're able to quickly change in a dynamic environment, then that's going to set you off in a very good way.
Yeah, it's a good way to be, because you can really shape your identity, because you're going to have different experiences to what I've had. For example, if I was a soccer coach, so I reckon that's definitely a good way to be, because between your experiences and you pinch things from here and there, and you kind of pick everyone's brain. You might not like what one of the ex-coaches have said, but you like a couple things, but you don't like one thing. So you can kind of build your own form your own identity, and then your assistant coaches can do the same thing, and then you can just feed off each other. That also brings a really good environment.
Yeah, that's it. It's all about, you've got to learn from other people. Like I said before, I want people around Heidelberg and my coaching staff who are smarter than me. Yes, I make the decisions and I'm the head coach, but I want my strength and conditioning coach to be the smartest in his field, because I don't know that field. I want my assistant coach to be good at some things that I might be struggling with. So if you have, and you've got to be confident in yourself and your ability to have these people around you, and to not undermine you. But it's key, if I can take something from there, take something from there, and then bring it on out to the pitch to help the players perform and make sure it can still be adapted to them, and suited to their needs. And you're on a good path.
So on to season 2021. Can you give us a little bit of a preview of what Heidelberg United look like, and some of the exciting prospects for 2021?
My season 2020 was looking good. It was looking good. If honest, obviously we're super excited. It was, my first season. We we changed a lot of the team. So the bare minimum for loyalty players, you have to have is 7, and that's all we had. So it was completely new team, new outlook, and like I said before, that brand new Heidelberg tag is something that we want to hold on to and want to do something that's really young, fresh. Similar to how the club appointed me. That's kind of the philosophy we're trying to go onto it, because the way we see it as a club and myself, the NPL, to those that don't know, it's only 8. The NPLW, sorry, is only 8 teams. So that's the 8 top of the top, and the W League players who play for Victory and City and whatnot, they will be playing in the NPLW. So, but we want to make sure it's not a league that's just stagnating. Oh, this is just the 8 teams. There's no promotion and relegation as well. So how can we do things different and better? And so I'm coming to it with kind of young and fresh new ideas. I'm not going to say they're the right ideas yet, because I haven't had a competitive game, so we don't know. But we want to do something that's fresh, bold, and we've got nothing to lose at the end of the day. So that's kind of our mindset. We want to develop players for the W League when the time's right, but also, of course, we want to win football games, and that's super important. For season 2021, which again is so far away. We're looking forward to, hopefully things change. If we keep the same squad, which I'm sure we will, we'll do good things. We've got a very good group of girls, great club supporting us as well. We had an undefeated pre-season, which generally doesn't mean too much, but it was a good start. So yeah, hopefully that will spur us on. And obviously with all this COVID lockdown, the girls are just itching to get back out there. So when we get back out there, we've got a point to prove, hopefully, and sneak into the top 4 and do some wonders. But we'll see.
Well, Jono, it was an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. Learned some great insights into soccer and football at all levels, so junior, semi-professional, also through the development leagues, and a little bit of your work at Melbourne City. So thanks, Jono, to come on the podcast, and all the best with Heidelberg United from season 2021 and beyond.